I'm sure a lot of you know about the Imagining Peace conference that happened in Chicago a couple of years back, in which we decided that we wanted to look at this issue of the violence that was going on in our city. And we partnered with a bunch of different organizations to do that because we were really pretty ignorant of the situation and knew that. So after we partnered with these organizations, they said, well, you're going to have to talk to youth. And so we didn't know any. And so we asked them if they would be willing to have a second meeting and bring youth along with them. And so Josh and Desiree are two of the people that actually came to that first meeting way back when. And Acharya Bell actually led that meeting. And so we had this conference. What happened was, after the conference, we really didn't know what was going to happen. But I think some of us just fell in love, quite literally. We just fell in love.
We did.
And we couldn't turn our backs anymore. You know, what was going on. We couldn't turn our backs anymore, and so we couldn't stop at that point. And so I was working in Shambhala, and I actually I worked at the Mercantile Exchange. I have 2 IT degrees, and I was making a 6-figure salary for a long time, and I wasn't really happy with that, and so that's how I ended up in coming to work for Shambhala, and it also required a whole life change. So I did that for 2 years as an administrative person, and then I really wasn't fulfilled anymore, and so at that point I was going to leave, and our center director said, what would you need to stay? And I said, well, first of all, I can't afford to live on a half-time salary. I can't afford to work. I was working part-time. So it has to be full-time, and it has to be something I care about. And he said, well, you really seem to care about what was going on after Imagining Peace. You really seem to care about that quite genuinely, and I don't think we can leave it either. So he took this enormous risk. Our center director, Tom Meducci, really took this enormous risk and said, we are going to create a position, a paid position, that can be part-time marketing, which could be because we really needed that at that point, and it really helped in the Sangha to say, because a lot of people were like, why would you create a full-time position for this? So it was part-time marketing and part-time social engagement, which is now full-time social engagement. So we have a paid full-time social engagement person in Shambhala that we have just completely, that's a made-up, is a completely made-up job. So I work from that angle, but I also work from the angle of actually working directly with the youth, because I feel like that's where my heart is. And it's always really important to remember the heart part of it, because you can go into wanting to change a system and really get really up here. So it's this balance, it's just this balance. And it's also really informative because they are able to tell you about their lives. A life that I'm not living, I'm not in it. I'm not really in the thick of it. So it seems like there's some kind of balance, but if we only work with youth and we don't do anything else, then that's not going to change the larger systemic issues. So what has really happened is that we're known now, like in this particular, with the organizations that are working with violence, we're an accepted part of that now. People know what Shambhala is because now it's just part of it. So in March, we just had a conference, big youth conference with lots of different organizations, and Shambhala was one of those organizations. And we got to give meditation instruction to 400 people. And we got to incorporate World Cafe within the conference. So it wasn't our conference per se, it was a conference run by the Peace Hub, which is something we're part of. So we're really becoming part of things as opposed to us trying to bring anything and people coming to it. So that's just kind of how it's worked. And so that's some of the stuff that we're doing. We're also working in Inglewood. So if you saw the talk, which is actually still available for another month, the Sakyong was in Chicago a week ago, and gave this fabulous talk. And we had Pastor Grant, who is a pastor in the Inglewood community. And Inglewood has one of the highest rates of violence in the whole city. And so he was a pastor in Inglewood, and he actually went and presented before the Sakyong and actually told the story, a little bit of Inglewood. And so that's still available online if you want to watch it. And part of what's going on there is faith communities. There are lots of faith communities, 300 churches in this area of Inglewood. And Pastor Grant says, and hardly any of them are doing anything to change the situation of what's going on for youth in Inglewood. They've closed the doors instead of letting people in because they're scared, and or they're not really there. They're not from Inglewood, but Inglewood has cheap rent. So they start their churches up there and then go home. And so we're looking to see, well, how can we help with that, right? So it's a large part of my job is doing a lot of listening, gathering people who are already doing something in the community and just saying, what are you guys doing? You know, we want to know more about it. And the people are not afraid to talk, trust me. Like, they want to tell you about it. And then how can we support them? So it's not necessarily Shambhala's going in there to try to do anything. We're just doing a lot of listening. And then when I see opportunities where we can help, that's where I offer. So with the youth, what's happened is that Josh was really inspired to start Speak Up Chicago, which is an open mic night that we host in our center. And I think maybe I'm going to let one of them take over at one. I'm going to let Cardo here, Brandon Cardo, take over here and just like tell you a little bit about why Speak Up Chicago and what it means.
Speak Up has become an outlet. Most of the violence in our communities in Chicago is caused by people not having a voice. So them not being able to speak their minds, not having any outlets in any way, shape, or form, gets them very angry. And a couple people that are in Speak Up, Josh from the neighborhoods that we come from, we know about it firsthand. So Josh, the genius behind this whole thing, created a space that we can now bring people from all over Chicago to come and share their art. Just like he said, what's the quote?
Everybody in the world is a fucking artist.
There you go. In some way, shape, or form, no, seriously, in some way, shape, or form, everybody is an artist. How you get up in the morning, it's an art to it. How you move around, it's an art to it. And we've brought people from all communities of Chicago to get together. They perform all type of art. There's no boundaries either. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's so, they receive it so well. Because we don't tell them what to do. They choose what they want to do. Just like how Artie let us choose what we wanted to do when it came to putting, everything together. So, yeah, it's a pretty great thing. We have everybody from rappers to poets to photographers to dancers. Besides it just being an open mic though, we have created a family between us, all of us. We go to each other's houses, we have dinners, we sit around, talk. Sometimes it won't be anything to do with music. We'll all just, get together, watch some movies, have fun. And I think that's that's why she said a Ziji in Chicago, maybe, that's something that we don't exactly need, because we have something of this exact same sort. it's creating a family together, banding together to bring peace in whichever way that we can. And everybody's an artist, everybody connects through music, so we believe that music is the ultimate connector, and it will bring all of us together. Yeah.